Hi, happy Sunday! Yay! It's my favorite time of the week, as you can tell, and hopefully it's yours too. It's time for Ask Away with Coach MK, where you throw all your anxiety in my direction and I turn it into lemonade and then blow it up your rear end, because what else would you do with lemonade? Lots of mixed metaphors, but that is exactly what tends to happen to our brains in moments like this. So before I go any further and I get started, if your life right now feels like a bag of mixed metaphors and you're not sure if you're supposed to scratch your watch, wind your butt, make lemonade, or just take a nap, let me tell you, you're exactly where you need to be. And that's right here, chatting with me. Whoop, whoop. Excuse me as I show off my fingers, because HRH, the baby Violet, we are trying really hard to potty train her. And by trying really hard, I mean, I am doing everything I can, and she is taking everything I give. And lately it has been manicures. So she wanted purple nails, and I'm like, we'll do this if you poop in the potty. So she did it, got the fingernails, and then stopped doing what it was she needed to do. Now, I tell you that to tell you this, wherever you are right now, you are exactly where you need to be. There is nothing I can do that's going to make little Miss HRH baby Violet want to poop in that potty, because pooping in the potty means she's going to have to go to preschool. And she has decided she doesn't want to do that because she wants to be home with her daddy all day. That is a rational decision. Her father and I could sit around and scratch our heads, feeling bad about ourselves as parents, worrying what we're going to do, or we can accept that this is what it is and roll with it. Now, having I do not want to touch any more poop. I mean, gosh, I don't want to change diapers. I don't want to smell diapers. I'm really ready for that phase of my life to be over. And this actually has something to do with you. So hang in there. I'm getting to it. And I made the active choice every day to be like, how am I going to feel about this today? Today, I'm going to remember that I'm an amazing parent. I've had 4 kids. I have kept them all alive, which there have been moments where, let me tell you, that was challenging. It was hard, man. They got mouths. I know exactly where they got them, but Lord have mercy. And it's hard to give ourselves credit, because none of us were raised to do that. We weren't told until we were older to start counting our wins and showing them to our bosses. We were told as we were growing up to look for ways that we can improve and then do better next time. Very few of us were ever given credit for being good. So this is one of the moments, this is one of the periods where I have to give myself credit. I am such a good mom. I am such a great parent. I'm so good at this. She doesn't want to leave my side, because the one thing I did right in her mind was pick her daddy for my life partner to create her. And if that's the only win around, I will take it. So if you're in a moment right now, and it seems like what I'm hearing is happening in the Facebook group, sorry, I haven't been in there personally, but that hopefully that'll be over and my life will be normal-ish in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Fingers crossed. They said end of August. So between now and the end of August, I'm still having to get reports about what's being said in the Facebook groups. And if you see a reply, it's probably not coming in directly from me. It's coming. It is. If they sound like me, it's because I typed it into text and told either Coach Takia or Aaron to copy paste exactly this response, because they all send me screenshots when you guys tag me. But I tell you this, there are these moments where you're not seeing the wins. I know a whole lot of people are not seeing the wins right now. You might be feeling bad about yourselves because all you see is the stinky diaper that you really don't want to smell anymore, and it's easy to feel like a failure. But here we are right now in air that smells not much better than a stinky diaper and is equally toxic, in a period where we don't know what's going to happen next, because we're getting tired of the uncertainty. We want to make plans. Runners are planners. And even if the race on the calendar isn't the most the end all be all most importantest thing in the whole wide world, it was still something to do, a mark in the future to count the days off, something to look forward to. And now it's looking like that might be taken away from us. And I really, really, really want you to avoid the temptation of looking at yourselves like the unruly 3-year-old who just doesn't want to be toilet trained. Violet is perfectly sane, and you are too. And if you feel like your head has been in your rear end, I got to tell you, that is probably the safest place your head could possibly be. The air in there is going to be so much fresher than what we got outside. My husband and I went to Georgetown, which is a town, not my undergrad. Oh God, no, never going back there. But we went to Georgetown, Colorado, did an overnight, and then drove back down. And then this morning, when we drove back into Denver, as we passed from high altitude to not so high altitude, we passed back into that inversion, the ozone layer here, and it gave me a huge headache. That I'm like, that is why I haven't wanted to go outside for days. That is why I've been choosing a Peloton instead of doing everything else. So if that's where you are, if you're getting anything done, yay. If you're not, again, yay. What you're not doing is wasting your body, hurting yourself in order to improve yourself. This is what fitness, that hustle culture, diet culture, fitness culture has demanded that we do. The only reason you don't have things you want is because you didn't work hard enough. Not true. No one can work in air like this. No one. Not even the Olympians, as we're seeing in Tokyo right now. So before I go into the questions, I just wanted to have that pep talk, that moment of MK, where you're reminded that you're coached, you're loved, you're winning at life, you're right where you need to be. And whether you ran 6/10 of a mile or 600 miles this past week, you probably got exactly what you needed to get out of it, because listening to your body is the most advanced thing you could possibly do. And the future is really uncertain. You've all heard the rumors, same as I have. Is the lockdown coming? I don't know. All I know is this: the resistance to it is going to be a whole lot louder and a lot more feral, I think, than what we got last time. And that no global economy, no one in this global economy has been ready for a period of economic shutdown like this. None of us were ready for it. And there's no country, that even the most socialist country around, that, you know, the Scandinavian countries that everybody points to and says, look, that's the model. That's exactly what we need to be doing. They're hurting too. Everybody's hurting. No one was prepared for this. It's not just us. So with that in mind, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know that it's going to be a lockdown. I don't know that it's not going to be a lockdown. I don't even want to make a prediction on that. What I'm going to say is the same thing I've been saying, the same thing I have been saying now for over a year. I do not see fall races returning in the form in which we are accustomed until fall 2023. I stand by that. There may be races this fall. They might be small. And if so, great. Do that. Go for it. Karina Terry, big win for Karina Terry. She was able to do her run in Estes Park this weekend. And that was posted. She posted it to her Facebook page. Big, huge kudos to you and huge congratulations, Karina Terry. I'm really proud of you and excited for you. I do not know. I don't even want to take a guess as a former numbers person. I don't want to take a stab at guessing how many of you or the statistical probability of any of you having as good of a result as Karina Terry did. The answer is I just don't know. And none of us know yet. All of this is going to be unfolding. So between now and then, preserve your body, conserve your energy, reserve your judgment, and then serve it on up when it's time to go. But that part about reserving your judgment is really important, because the thing I do not want you judging is yourself. The only person who gets to do that is me. I've judged you. I've weighed you. I still think you're fucking fabulous. It's never going to change, because it has nothing to do with running or what you have or haven't done, or what you could or couldn't done better. Like you as a person, your value in general has nothing to do with the miles you log or what's in your Strava. I don't need to know that to know that I fucking love you and love having you here. So as starting off the weekly wins, the biggest one there is Karina Terry. She ran a half marathon this weekend, and she overcame her race anxiety. As someone who suffers from anxiety and is in therapy for it and takes medication for it, let me tell you, it's a big deal. Overcoming anxiety of any sort, whether it's my anxiety of crowds or performance anxiety like high-level Olympic athletes are having, or even just showing up and doing something like the type of anxiety that Karina Terry has. I don't want to categorize. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not going to try to pathologize her anxiety. But I will say she felt it bubbling up, took a deep breath, and was able to control it, reminding herself that she was ready for this and that she was going to have fun. And then she did. And I'm proud of you. I really am, Karina. That's so the hardest thing in the world to do is to go into a situation that we've been taught to think of as pressure and performance and truly enjoy it. And I'm really glad you were able to get that, especially at Estes Park, where, you know, being at altitude is kind of hard. Being at altitude in the middle of wildfire season is even harder. And you know what? You won. You're winning at life. That's what I want for everybody. Another winning at life, Coach Nakia, if you have not yet seen, got a tattoo of a lotus flower, which I love that. I love the lotus flower, not just because I'm addicted to that new show, The White Lotus on HBO. If you haven't seen it yet, it's amazing, truly amazing. It's almost as amazing as Coach Nakia's tattoo. Go check it out. Congratulations, Coach Nakia. I asked her if that hurt, and she said no more than a 10K. And I was like, So that's a yes. Everybody knows I don't do 10Ks because they hurt and they're awful. It's also why I don't have a tattoo. Brenda Haskins, I just hate to mention her name because I'm so jealous. Brenda Haskins is vacationing in Italy and looks like from the picture she's having an amazing time. So if you have not friended her on Facebook yet, if you are not following her on Instagram, I strongly recommend Brenda Haskins. Get them there and do that because she's in Italy and she's living it up, and no one deserves this more than Brenda Haskins because no one had a worse 2018 or 2019 than Brenda Haskins did, except maybe Christine Lancaster, but it was a different kind of pain, different kind of bad, different kind of work. All of you, it's not that I would normally compare work, but your time is coming, Coach Christine. And when that day comes, I'm going to cheer for you and celebrate you just as hard as I'm cheering and celebrating for Brenda Haskins today in Italy. Oh my gosh. So thinking of my hearts go out to Kristen Fraser, who injured her knee recently. Kristen has been making an amazing recovery. If you're not friends with her yet on Facebook, I highly recommend it. She has an amazing arrangement of plants in her home, almost 200 succulents. I have this one succulent and it's barely alive. The only reason it's barely alive is because sometimes I'll go to Instagram and I see Kristen Fraser's Instagram, and it reminds me that I do have to water a succulent from time to time. Oops. Yay. So I hope your knee recovers more quickly than this succulent of mine is going to recover. And I'm sorry if that hurts your ears to hear. Just saying, it's not like I mean to abuse it. I just literally, it's teeny tiny. They gave it to me with my glasses purchase, and I just forget that it's there. I should have told them no. I really should have. They clearly don't know me there. Okay. Now in rebuild, here are the questions. It's my first marathon build after an ACL repair surgery a few years ago. Bless your buttons. All right. What do you think about breaking back out my TENS unit to aid in recovery? I like that. I used a TENS unit when I was healing my shoulder after it was dislocated with HOH baby Violet not long after she was born. She says, how about using it on other sore muscles from training? Here's how I feel about TENS units. They do wonderful things for muscular pain, but the way it works is that it calms down by overstimulating. When you've got pain in an area that you can't manage, then generally what's happening is a cycle that's really hard to break of a nerve firing, whether or not it needs to, which was a lot what was happening around my shoulder. And the TENS machine can calm the pain down by overstimulating that area really quickly and really cogently so that those pain signals stop going out. That is a very ultra super non-scientific way of describing exactly what it is a TENS machine was designed to do. So to that end, I don't know that it necessarily accelerates recovery, but I also don't think it does harm. So I'm not going to say don't do it. The things that cause harm, I'm going to be like, well, I don't know. That doesn't sound like a tattoo. That sounds painful. I'm not going to tell you not to get one. I'm not going to yell at Coach Nakia for getting one, but I myself, Coach MK, that is not happening because I'm a baby and I don't like pain, and I am okay with that at my age, y'all. So same thing goes with the TENS unit. When it comes to athletic recovery, the science behind it is shaky. The Normatec compression technology, it's not the same thing as the compression technology that we know does aid in recovery. TENS units, it doesn't specifically do harm. So I'm not going to say don't do it, but it also feels good. So if it feels good, do it. But if it feels awful, but you can talk yourself into doing it because you think it's doing some good, I would say no. So if you can tolerate your TENS machine, sure, do it. Will it help you facilitate recovery? I don't know. But you know what? Lying still in a quiet place for 15 minutes with the TENS unit on, that in and of itself, or with or without the TENS unit, I truly believe that can have some therapeutic value and that can make you feel better, especially if that's coming in the form of a nap. So yeah, go get it, but you don't have to use the TENS unit. There you go. Not saying no, which is not the same as go. I'm really loving how Training Peaks auto uploads each month. What is the best way to get to the middle of the road marathon plan? Are most people manually editing workouts when they're going from maintain to marathon? Yes, they are. Because you got to remember, this is not a very old company. We opened our doors to maintain in, I believe it was August or July of 2019. And we only had like the draft plans for the marathon. And then when I was getting ready to rewrite them, COVID hit. and COVID shut everything down, and there were no races. I didn't feel the need for the money it costs to produce the new plan, because it would only be coming in physical form, not in Training Peaks form. It didn't really feel worth it. Also, there was no easy way to do it, because the plan people like the most is the one is dedicated AF, or at least that was one that got the most interest, and it layers directly on top of Maintain. So it's just 10 weeks of different long runs. And there was no easy way to put that together. So we'd come up with we were still thinking about what would be the easiest way to roll this out to people without overstressing the people who put things into Training Peaks. They're having them create like 7 different iterations of the same plan each month, right? So we were still trying to figure all that out when COVID hit. So reach out to me. Yes, right now, most people are either manually editing if they need that box to be green in Training Peaks, and they're doing it while they follow the old piece of paper plan that you can find in the files tab in the Facebook groups. If you can't, reach out and we'll send it to you. But yeah, that's kind of what most people are doing when they're going from Maintain to Marathon. Remember, we want to maintain year round. It's not about like doing everything to the letter, but it's about kind of staying in a prepared range, then dialing it in for a month or two. Because if you were going from week 1 of Maintain, compare that to week 1 of any marathon plan out there, you're already doing way more work. So all we need to do is dial it in. We don't need to start from the beginning and build up. I just see all of that as superfluous. If we just kind of stay and Maintain, do our thing, and then say, okay, you know what? I'm planning on racing in November, so it's August. I really need to start making sure I get most of the runs done. And then from there, kind of narrowing in only at the last minute when we really need to. I'm not here to make you do more work than necessary or upset your life more than you need to do. Because it should be, if we run all the time, it shouldn't be a huge adjustment to dial things in for a short period to get ready for a race. And this way we can take all the stress and all the crazy stuff out, all of the things that kill our perspective, because now we've been talking about this one thing for so much, then this day is going to get all this importance that it never really deserved. So instead, we just run or we don't run, and race day comes and it's yay! And it just sort of accidentally happens instead of like driving us and everyone we love off the rails in the process. So that is honestly, that's a long way of saying that is what most people are doing. And that's by design, because if we make you do a little bit more work on your end to get your marathon plan ready, you ain't just going to jump in to marathon plan willy-nilly. It's not like I'm trying to deter everyone from racing. I'm trying to deter unnecessary decision-making to try to trick yourself or force yourself into a very narrow path that may or may not serve your interests. If you want to race, we're going to make it here to race. What I'm not going to do is make it as simple as humanly possible, though we could make it easier. I know that COVID got in the way of it, and we just stopped asking those questions because it's like, no one's racing right now. What are we going to do? But I am happy to revisit that. If you reach out to me directly, let's talk about different things that we could do or what the best option for you would be. But generally speaking, what I'm thinking of is that in Training Peaks, it's so easy to delete a column. So you just apply the month and then delete the Friday column and the Saturday column. And then you can add in the long runs in sync with and line them up with, or you can just go ahead and put them all in at once up to your race day. And that works too. So there are a couple of easier ways to go about it, and we'll get those, we'll get some videos ready to go eventually. It's on the list of things to do, but yeah, there are things that we could do they're pretty simple, or at least are simpler than whatever you're thinking of doing, having to manually create everything and write it out. Don't do any unnecessary work. I'm also happy to help you with that free of charge. It's sweaty feet time again. Yay! Do you see any issue with swapping out socks and shoes on the long runs? No issue whatsoever. I run in a big circle and have the opportunity to change it maybe halfway through. That's honestly, it's fine with me. Totally fine with me. Remember, the thing that gets me excited about shoes is lack of squish. Squish is anything that's like a sponge that would hold moisture. And I described this in depth right before the Houston Marathon in 2017 when it was supposed to rain buckets, and it did. And it was a disaster. It was a rain disaster, in my opinion. And I don't like racing in those conditions. When I wake up and I see those conditions, I'm like, yep, nope. I'm just going to go play at Christy Harris, who just moved to Houston. If she had lived there, then I'd be like, I would rather go play at Christy Harris's house in her pool than swim downtown. One of the two, what's it going to be? And I would choose Christy Harris. I would choose her every day anyway, but especially then. So one of the things that I talked about when it came to shoes, if you are determined to race this, you need to make sure you have a shoe that is not going to absorb very much water. So minimum squish around the neck, around the toe, around whatever. And I still, to this day, one of the reasons I got so excited about trying the new Brooks Aurora is that there's no squish anywhere. It's got a big, soft sole that's amazing to run on, but the upper, zero squish. So let's think about, shoes have come a long way. It's not just the Brooks Aurora. After I started looking through the store, I was like, oh, wow, Nike has a whole bunch now like this. I just haven't been shoe shopping in a very long time. Nike has a whole bunch like this. Hoka has a whole bunch like this. This looks like it might be the way the market is going, with less squish around the ankle and less thinner, lighter, more breathable uppers, which are so much more pleasant to run in. And I think you'll find thinner socks plus thinner uppers are going to be a much more pleasant running experience. But if you're already in your race cycle and you're like, I like my shoes, I like my socks, I'm changing nothing, then great. Swap your shoes out for a dry pair halfway through. That's totally fine. And after this race is over, if you get the inclination, let's go check out some new shoes because there's so many options now that are so great. Oh my God, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I love it. I love it so much. I tried to get Coach Nakia to go the other day and she was like, no, my shoes come from Italy because I'm a diva. And she'll say that. That's not actually what she said. That's what I'm saying. It's my interpretation of it. But her shoes do have to be special ordered. And once they clear customs, she'll have a new pair on her feet of Italian racing flats for her race coming up here in a week or two. So those are all the questions. And here's the final thing I want to say to you. I know that numbers are a thing here, and I don't like talking about numbers or sharing numbers. I don't hesitate to share mine. What I do worry about is the way people compare numbers, and I don't want you to compare yours to mine. So, but all that said, I'm going to give you some numbers right now. I did not do the strength in Sunburn last Friday because I'd gone to the doctor, and they ended up drawing a lot of blood, way more blood than I had expected, and it made me lightheaded. I came home, drank some juice, and ended up being lightheaded in my bed for the rest of the day. Well, I finally got the test results back this past Friday when they made me come in because they wanted to talk about them, which is never a good thing. And here's the conversation that they wanted to have. Mrs. Fleming, I don't know if you've heard of the Fitness Protection Program. They're a local Denver company, but you might want to reach out to Coach MK and consider taking up running because your cholesterol is dangerously high and your blood pressure is too. And you've gained a lot of weight recently. And so we need to worry about all these things before you become pre-diabetic. I'm like, I am Coach MK. What are you talking about? I need to take up running. I've been running. And this led to a conversation because my cholesterol was high and my blood pressure is absurdly high. It's like 100. I think they said 139 over 110. It was like a tick away from needing medication, both on the blood pressure and on the cholesterol. It was like 126 or something. And at 130 is when they start prescribing cholesterol medication. Now, these are not things I've had ever, obviously. And my yes, I've gained weight. I'm 165 pounds, which for me is still on the heavier side. But I'm 22% body fat. There's still some muscle underneath there. Whether or not I can get those muscles to mobilize and do anything on a given day depends on the day, depends on the air, depends on my mood, depends on how much sleep I got. It depends on a whole lot of things. But at the end of the day, like I said last week, no matter what mama says, I'm still a Christian. And no matter what my doctor says, I'm not that unfit, and I absolutely am still a runner. That has nothing to do with miles I put in or whether or not I ran last week. In this moment where I'm like I did take the one recommendation where they had me work with a nutritionist out of the office who has me doing intermittent fasting. And I don't hate it yet because it actually does kind of look a lot like the eating pattern I used to follow when I was fitter, getting up first thing in the morning, going for a run, and then eating right away. Now, I'm telling you that to be full disclosure with you that, yes, I've had to make some changes recently. And that, yes, I'm not in love with it either. But this is not, and I have to center myself and remind myself of this. This is not me failing. Life's hard right now. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of stress. And your body does keep the score. Your body, your brain does not differentiate between physical and psychological stress. In moments when you're more stressed then you may realize your body's going to react in all kinds of ways. Your liver and your gallbladder are not going to process fat as well. There will be more cholesterol in your blood. There will be higher blood, your blood sugar will be higher, which means that you become insulin resistant. That is a thing. Dr. Phil Maffetone talked about this thing, but doctors like to treat medical issues, and this is no disrespect, it's what they do, but insulin resistance is not a problem until you are actually diabetic. So in these moments, in that odd place between like you're headed towards a medical problem, but we're not there yet, go work with this health coach who works with us. And this is where you start playing in this gray area where there are lots of questions, not good answers, because things are really hard to test for. That's where I am right now. And I'm still got the puffiness in places I don't want to see it. I can barely get my rings on in the morning, which is part of the reason why I agreed to go with Violet to make my fingernails pretty, because my fingers feel swollen and awful. No matter where you are right now, no matter what you're doing or feeling, if you have gained 25 pounds and you don't know how, if you're doing all the right things and you still don't feel like moving your legs, that is real. That is not a sign that there's something wrong with you, and there might be medically nothing wrong with you. But it is a reminder that we are in uncharted territory, uncharted waters. We have no idea, again, for a second year in a row, what the fall is going to bring. We are looking down. Is there going to be a mask mandate? Are we not going to be allowed to bring kids to schools? There's so many questions and no good answers that it is easy to tune out all that noise and just be mean to ourselves. And I'm going to beg you, instead of being mean to yourself, because that's never worked, or being firm with yourself, and firm, does it ever work with your kids? I can tell you it don't work with HRH. I might scare Cheyenne into submission once in a while, but that does not change her behavior. It just makes her hide it from me. But that's how I was raised. So this is a thought process I have to go through myself. I could yell at her. That'll work in the moment, but it's not going to work, period. So rather than doing the same thing to yourself or using tough love, which is basically abuse, I'm going to beg you to say, hey, what's happening right now is a legitimate response to everything around me. There's a whole lot of stress. That sucks. I don't. Because you don't. Wonderful, and I love you. And if you doubt it for any reason or question it for any reason, then get your butt in office hours and talk to me, because that is what office hours are for, and you paid for them. And you can talk, or you can just say, I have nothing to say, and let me talk about, and I will talk to you about how awesome you are. And if that gets embarrassing, say, could you talk about the weather instead? I will do that. I will say whatever you need to hear to remind you that you belong here. You are worthy, and there ain't a damn thing wrong with you. I'm proud of you for surviving. I know how much work it took to get here today, because I've been doing it too. And I don't care what size you are. I care how you feel about it. And I will reframe that perspective as frequently as you need it, because we all need to hear that we're doing something right. Because in absence of someone else telling ourselves that, we are going to fill in the blank with something negative that isn't going to make us better. It isn't going to make us prouder. And we're going to miss every win that we've ever accumulated. So with that, go into this week remembering that you are coached, you're loved, you're winning at life, and there's a way to remember it, and it's called office hours. Get in there.